Having the match of the week is pretty big for us. Last split we were 8th place most of the split. We look forward to play against them.
They are a really good team, so it's going to be a really tough match. A match that will be very, very important for us.
Sometimes I watch Vegas and Yellowstar play, and you can see that they've played together for so long. They're always like on the same page.
Sauce goes down, Yellowstar looking for some fancy plays, grabs one. Beautiful execution.
They just got kickers now, but they have like a good voice on almost every lane, so they really all have a way to win the game.
Oh, first blood!
Fnatic decided to make me an offer, and I joined instantly, you know, because Fnatic is, you wanna join? I'm like, yes.
We're already improving a lot every week, and we have to keep on doing that.
We have to do our best to find their weaknesses and trying to fight them on that.
I actually expected Splyce to be really high, at least top 5.
They're really strong, all of them individually, and then they almost always have a good plan to win the game.
Welcome to the European LCS, coming to you live from Berlin, Germany, with the finals in Krakow closing in fast. The competition is heating up as teams desperately fight to stay in playoff contention and out of the relegation zone. As you can see, everybody is super pumped. We're almost at the end of the split and that playoff race is on. There is Fnatic just chilling by the pool, hope they don't fall in or their hair will be messed up. And there's H2K also making their way to the stage, looking for a win. A strange poster behind them. Very interesting. Well, I'm sure we'll find out more about that later. Good evening, everyone. I'm Eva Schok, supporter, and joining me at the analyst desk is Martin de Fischo Lunge and Daniel Sifa Drakos. Now, Martin was supposed to be casting today, but he sustained an injury.
The tongue.
Tongue injury.
I bruised my tongue. I was actually going to bring a potato up here and put it in my mouth because I can't really say TH at the moment, so I'm going back to season 4.
I can't say that either from a Belgium accent, so...
Well, maybe it's on him now.
Yeah, you can say...
Give us some THs. There we go.
All right, cool. Well, let's talk about League of Legends and about patch 6.14. Obviously, it dropped on the EU LCS. There'll be a few changes affecting our players this week. Let's first talk about supports. Sona was quite strong.
Yes,
online.
So Sona is absurdly powerful in solo queue, and we kind of argue back and forth about her value in competitive. But keep in mind, folks, this is not the hotfix version or the adjusted version on live. This is pre-Sona adjustments, pre-Sona nerfs, essentially. So this is the scary, terrifying early patch release of Sona.
Right?
In LCS, yeah. And I mean, she's good. Fantastic laning phase, especially against all the ranged supports. However, in competitive, she's always been a little bit weaker because you can gank her, coordinated attempts with teleports in the bottom lane, punish her very hard. I do think we're going to see her. I just don't think she's like S-tier support or anything.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Dragon-wise, Cloud Drake, woohoo!
Oh man, I'm so excited about so many things. There's good support buffs, there's Cloud Drake buffs. So first Cloud Drake, still not the end-all be-all. Probably worth more contesting, but when you start to look at 2 and 3 Cloud Drakes, you are insanely fast. You can be anywhere at any time. I mean, it gets you to lane faster, and when you start to think about teams backing frequently, teams looking for fights, it's going to be so much more reliable to contest Barons or to look to fight major objectives.
I want to startle you, but it's right behind you. It was. Yeah, it's gone now. Oops. Yeah, well, there we go.
Scary stuff.
Scary stuff. Then, of course, before we move on to Ryze, Kennen is disabled still after the bug we found last week around. But moving on to Ryze, the reworked Ryze once again is available here. So how strong is he? How much will we see him?
I think he's super fun to play, but he's very weird to play compared to old Ryze. And while I think he can be very strong, his late game damage is great. If you manage to get the right combos, he gets kited pretty easily. And his ulti pre-rank 2 is fairly weak in my opinion because it's very short. So I don't think we're going to see him. But not because he's terrible, more because I feel like teams need more time to kind of figure out how to use the new Ryze, how to use his ulti properly. What kind of combos are you looking for in terms of just pure damage, maybe getting utility. With a bit more time, I think we could see him more. Maybe we see him like maybe once or twice, but not as much as before.
And I think, to be fair, that's always been the story of Rise. Obviously, a champion who has seen a ton of reworks in this most recent one has not made him any simpler, a very complex kit. And as you said, the ulti, while theoretically incredibly powerful, similar to Tom Kenshall when we first saw him released, very difficult to use effectively.
Yeah, that's what I heard from some players as well as they were in the makeup room saying, well, we didn't really have that much time to practice it yet, but then maybe some teams have.
Maybe next week.
Yeah, and they'll come out with a pick. Well, we'll see if the reworked warps onto the Rift today as we take a look at what's in store tonight. First up in the arena, it's our match of the week between Fnatic and Splyce. Fantastic matchup for the number 2 spot. Last time around, not the best time for Splyce, but this one should be really, really exciting.
Different team, obviously.
Absolutely. And I think Splyce continuing to move up in the ranks. I think of a team that we have to keep our eyes on, especially after hearing from Yamato and Coaches Week, hearing that they're scrimming with G2 constantly. I'm excited to see what they bring to the table.
Yeah, again, they're definitely playing with the big boys, and now they got to show they deserve to move into top 2 so they can also get that straight bye into the semifinal, because we are very close to playoffs. I mean, there are 2 weeks left, so winning against Fnatic now as Splyce, suddenly they are actually in charge of who gets the top 2 spot. They can just keep winning the rest of the games, and then they're locked.
Super important match of the week, and stay tuned after the matchup because there's a reunion in store as we get our first look at the most unexpected friendship on Summoner's Rift. But meanwhile, it's H2K versus Vitality in the LCS studio, and we'll also see Origin facing off against Giants and Schalke, looking to find some points versus Rocket. A lot of very interesting matchups and teams that are in dire need of points.
Yeah, and some must-win games, I feel. If you look at Giants versus Origin, obviously both teams here need their 2-0. Giants because they want to lock that playoff spot, and Origin because they want to get out of relegation zone, which they're in right now. Also Schalke against Rocket. Schalke have been in a massive slump for the last few weeks. If you're not able to 2-0 Rocket, well, then you deserve to be down there in the bottom of the standings, and that's been the opposite of what we expected from Schalke coming into the split.
And when we look at the middle of the pack, all of these teams are so very close on points that getting a 2-0 is absolutely crucial. You really need that 3 points. 1-1ing against a team that you're close to, or 1-1ing against a team, more importantly, that is at the bottom of the standings, is essentially a loss as far as you should be concerned.
Yeah, it's crunch time for all these teams, and with the playoff race in full force, we're going to check in with Quickshot for a closer look at the standings.
Thank you very much, guys. Yes, I do want to take a look at the standings. I also want to take a look at what it means looking forward when it comes to playoffs and how we get there. Before we do, though, let's take a look at how the teams stack up at the beginning of Week 8. G2 Esports still comfortably in the lead with 28 points, sitting behind them Fnatic, Splyce. And I want you guys to keep your eyes here on Giants and the Unicorns of Love. Both tied with 17 points apiece, but then we're like, hey, who gets the seeding? How do you determine the tiebreakers? Well, there's a couple of very simple rules to follow. First and foremost, when teams are tied on points, we then take a look at the next step, and that is how many series wins have they accrued. So for the example of Unicorns of Love and Giants, both have 17 points, but the Unicorns, they've won 4 series, Giants have won 5. Therefore, Giants will have the highest seed when it comes to breaking down playoffs. If they are tied with both points as well as series wins, then we look at their head-to-head record. Does one team have a 3-1 or a 4-0? If yes, they get the highest seed. Now, you say quick shot, but they're tied in series, they're tied in points, they're tied in head-to-head. What next? Well, we look at number 3, our favorite, tiebreaker games. They will be scheduled after week 9, so keep a close ear for those as we get closer to the times. Right, so we've got a top 6. Let's figure out how they fit into the brackets. I've got an empty playoff bracket that I'd like to show you guys. LCS seed number 1 and 2 jump straight to the semifinals. They bypass round 1. And then your usual 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5. One important thing to note, the highest seed from the quarterfinals will then get seeded to play the second seed. A little bit confusing, so I've got some team logos as an example for you. If playoffs happen today, where would teams place? G2 and Fnatic would be first and second if they happen today. Splyce would be in third. Let's assume Splyce wins their quarterfinal matchup against Unicorns of Love, which is pretty likely. They would then drop down to play Fnatic because there is a reseeding from quarters to semifinals. It's very important to note that Splyce and Fnatic are 1 point away, all right? So looking forward, looking at the playoffs and who's going to make it there, I think it's time to dial in on at least 3 of the teams that I think have very important stories that have a lot on the line. And to do that, we're going to look at the strength of schedule, right? So I've picked 3 teams, going to look at who they're playing. And I'm going to start with Fnatic. They're currently in second place. They're only 1 point ahead of Splyce. And they play Splyce today in about 10 minutes' time. They also play Origin, Rocket, and G2. So that's a mixed bag. 2 tough games, 2 relatively easy games, a pretty even win-loss from their opponents. If they get more points than Splyce, who are the next team I'm going to look at, that means Fnatic get that first round bye. They go to semifinals. They guarantee a trip to Krakow. That's a lot on the line. Splyce, on the other hand, they want to upset the apple cart in Europe. And that means hopefully taking down Fnatic, looking at H2K, Origin, Unicorns, arguably a slightly easier schedule, but still very difficult. 2 or 3 tough teams thrown in there, and Origin's a bit of a wild card. Now, finally, talking about Origin, we have to talk about the position that they are in. Origin have a very tough schedule. They have 3 out of the top 4 teams left to play, and they need 4 additional points from their remaining games to avoid the promotion tournament, to keep their hopes of Worlds alive. Why is that important? Because if Origin do not avoid the promotion tournament, they will forfeit their championship points. They cannot go to the regional qualifiers, and that means no Worlds for a semi-finalist World Championship team from last year. Now, this is quite a lot of information about the 3 teams. If you'd like to see all of them for all 10 European LCS squads, head over to twitter.com/LOL esports, and you can see exactly who has to play whom in the following 2 weeks of the regular season. Every single game matters. Every single point matters. So with that, let's get into the action of our first series of the day. It is Fnatic versus Splyce on European LCS 1, while H2K will be facing against Vitality on EU LCS 2. Ladies and gentlemen, take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Quickshot. Fantastic breakdown because, yeah, only 2 weeks left in the regular season. And a lot of our players a couple of weeks ago said, we're not looking at the standings yet. I believe that will have changed today.
Oh, yeah, you have to now. You have to look at the standings, especially up in the top as well. G2 should be able to lock in the top 2 spot. They are a few points ahead right now. Fnatic Splyce is the big one. It's actually benefiting Fnatic if they get a tie here compared to, like, you know, end up losing certain points because they want to be able to decide themselves.
Yeah, because here on EULCS 1, we are going to take a look at Fnatic versus Splyce, as you said here, for that second place and the all-important bye if we look down the line. As mentioned earlier, the first time they met in the split, it was a 2-0 for Fnatic, quite handily, but this team as Splyce has evolved so much since then.
Absolutely. I think when we look at how their style has evolved, how their team play has evolved, we can clearly say that this is not a new and improved Splyce, but a greatly improved Splyce. And it's not just Mickey like we thought it was at the start of the season. The team as a whole is pretty much better all around.
Yeah, and I like when I'm watching Splyce games, I feel like I can predict a lot of the plays because they're making the right plays. It's like, okay, they have a TP advantage.
You're the mastermind.
Well, no, I'm not saying like that, but it's more like when you have a TP advantage in top lane, normally you see a play on the bottom side. They execute those plays. They pull them off. They did it against G2 last week. That's why they got a 1-1 as well. So they're very, very good at understanding when to pull the trigger and when to actually set up these macro plays. And it's something Yamato Cannon always talked about, and that's why he's very happy, obviously, to see his team do well.
Yeah, at first we thought, are we actually going to see it? But he showed that he is doing the right thing with these guys up against Fnatic. Obviously, last week is the first time we saw Kikis in the top lane for Fnatic, and he did it. It was almost seamless for him. It's quite impressive the way he's able to go from team to team and then show up in these top matchups.
I mean, he has a lot of experience.
Yeah.
Obviously, from the side of Kikis, also switching teams here and there in the past, but now we see a player just kind of slotting right into Fnatic. They didn't change the way he was playing. He didn't change the way Fnatic were actually looking to play either, because we saw Gamsu try and pull in a few carries, and he played a bit of Gnar. He was a bit of a carry as well, as a split pusher at least. Kikis just slotted right in and was just way better than what Gamsu used to offer. So I think they have a big improvement in top lane, also because Kikis is very vocal and Gamsu was not.
And this is my big question mark, is how he's going to stack up against Wunder, because Gamsu absolutely destroyed Wunder last time these guys played head-to-head. Admittedly, Spirit put down a ton of jungle pressure, made that lane easy for him, but Kikis, we can safely say, a much bigger threat across the board. How is Wunder actually going to be able to go toe-to-toe with this guy?
I mean, Wunder has, in my opinion, been one of the absolute best top laners in Europe this split, and he's playing like a lot of these different carries. Both him and Kikis can play like Fiora, who's been buffed on this patch here. I think we could see her being played by one of these two guys, and then it's like very focused on snowballing that lane, making top lane probably the most important lane in this specific matchup. I think bot lanes are going to go even, I think mid lane is going to go even, and then it's all about who can snowball like Irelia or Fiora. Yeah, the junglers, and in the junglers, you know what, jungle and top together, those 4 guys against each other can decide the entire game.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that Spirit trashy matchup as well. And as the players ready up for picks and bans in the arena, it is time to catch up with our casters. Yeah, let's do that.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. I have realm warped over from there to here, and I'm joined by James Trace O'Leary.
Yeah, realm warped. Wasn't expecting that one to come out so soon.
I was going to go TP, but I figured Rise.
Yeah, well, I figure it's probably the only time you're going to get to say it today, because we're probably not going to see too much of the Ryze. I'm not trying to buzzkill. All I'm saying is Deficio kind of laid the groundwork. A lot of teams haven't had a lot of time to practice it. And I was speaking to some of the players. We'll get into it. But Ryze maybe not a priority pick as much as it used to be.
I'm going to follow up because I know who you were talking to. Before Champion Select, let's take a closer look at the players. In the blue corner, representing Fnatic, currently second in the standings. It is Kikis in the top lane. Spirit of the jungle, Febiven mid, Reckless the AD carry, Yellow Star the support. Their coach, Daylor, and they are 1 point away from playing in the quarterfinals. They have to pick up points here against Splyce.
Important game for them, but fighting to knock them down to third place on the Kled side. I mean, red side, sorry Trevor, as we have Splyce on the red side of the rift. It is top lane Wonderwear, jungle is Trashy, mid lane is Senkuk's, AD carry Cobby, support Mickey X, and their coach is Yamato Cannon.
Okay, so reminder, if everybody did miss a few minutes ago, we are playing on 6.14. Cannon is disabled. He's the only one. Ryze is up there, though we're not expecting him. I know you're talking to Febiven just a little bit about the kits and about the champion in particular. Want to expand on why we might not see him in a little bit more depth?
Specifically, while speaking to Febiven, he was talking a lot about the ultimate, how rank 1 is fairly useless. You lost a lot of the movement that just came from Ryze's kit as it was, and some of his wave clear as well. Those kind of factors can be compensated a little bit by itemization and a little bit by runes and masteries, but it's not quite as compensating as the old Ryze used to be, so it's going to take some time, as Deficio was talking about.
All right, I've stolen all of our pre-build-up on Ryze. What else could we expect to see him pick some bans here? Bod, Malzahar, Nidalee already removed from the table.
Well, on the support front, we have seen a lot of changes, but this is a lot of bans coming out. Shen, Olaf coming out as well. Heavy priority on Spirit's champion pool right now. Leaves us with Elise available and Rek'Sai, should we be looking for a first pick here. Keep in mind, Azir was also slightly nerfed in this patch, as well as a few other champions.
And of course, Trashy going to be super happy to play Rek'Sai unless it's first picked. 14 games for Trashy on that champion out of the 28. That's a lot.
And the reason it's worked so well for Splyce for that Rek'Sai is he can very easily shadow his laners on Rek'Sai. When they're playing the 1-3-1 setup, it allows him to bounce very quickly, and that is why it's been such a strong pick for them. So Fnatic may very well prioritize taking it away, but they've shone away from the Rek'Sai.
Yeah, they really have. It's also important to know Rek'Sai hit a bit of a nerf on that Tremor Sense this patch. We'll see whether or not Trashy opts into it. First pick Karma. Karma still reigning supreme, as it were, when it comes to that support role. And it does have that possibility to flex.
Possibility, but Fnatic haven't showed us that yet. 6 games of Karma, and they've all been for Yellow Star down in that bottom lane. Maybe we'll see something happen as a little bit of the priority in mid lane did get changed around just with the Azir nerfs, but they're not significant enough to remove the champions from the pool. Nevertheless, looking over on the Splyce side of things, this is normally where they'd lock in the Rek'Sai if they want it. Sivir not available, and here's a pick that I've been tracking for Wonderwear. He's been playing a lot of Fiora up in the top lane in solo queue. It's a pick we've seen from him before in previous splits, and he's looking to dominate the side lane once again on such a strong duelist.
Yeah, but that's terrifying. Blind pick Fiora into Fnatic and Kikis.
And there's a reason that Fiora is coming back. On 6.14, she had a couple of slight changes to her laning phase that allows her to be a little bit more consistent earlier on in the game. She still has good scaling potential to go through the game if she gets ahead. We'll see what they lock in as the 2v2, because that is what the analyst desk were talking about, a priority matchup here in this match.
Going to be very important for Fnatic to get a handle on Splyce and their 2v2 top, jungle and top, because last time Fnatic beat Splyce was because of the fact that Spirit and Gamsu had such a good matchup into Wonder and Trashy. But that is many weeks ago. A lot has changed. So much has changed, in fact, that Hecarim and Gnar, that's locked, isn't it?
That is now just locked as the timer expires. So Hecarim is the jungle pick, but it's now the Gnar into the Fiora. What that means is that for Kikis, he's going to look to at least hold back some of Fiora's laning potential. Mini Gnar can escape from Fiora, but it's still very much so more of a skill matchup than a lot of the matchups that Fiora would in fact face, especially looking at the current state of top lane. So I'm excited to now see Kikis on this Gnar. We saw him last week on Gnar, one of the only 2 champions he played. Can he do the same to Wonder this week that he was doing to the other top laners last?
Oh, it's going to be tough. It's going to be so important. The Hecarim, I'm not on board just yet, because we've seen it It's feast or famine. So many junglers have spoken out about how if you don't get multiple kills early, you just can't do anything with the pick.
You can't do anything with the pick, but they've got the Karma alongside to speed up the Hecarim, get him into the fight using that ultimate as well. You've got Gnar to come in as secondary engage. If we see an Ashe come out of Fnatic now for their bottom lane, we may still be able to see Fnatic catch out fights from those Hecarim-style engages coming through as well. A lot of crowd control potential coming up.
Crowd control for days here from so many places. Braum and Gragas locked in, so Trashy going back to really the champion that put him on the map in the summer split, because the first few weeks, Trashy was single-handedly winning games for Splyce. And obviously no Rek'Sai yet. No Rek'Sai, no Elise. With all the bans, and obviously a changed patch, maybe priorities are changing.
Yeah, I don't feel like the Rek'Sai nerfs is what's removing her from this situation. I think this is a little bit more about just disengaging the fight. When you look at a Hecarim, you look at a Gnar, push them away. Of course, Hecarim's fairly difficult to stop as it is, but get yourself out of that fight. They're still looking to set up strong side lanes. We may see the Kassadin come out from Senkux once again. We've seen it pretty much once every series from Splyce over the last couple of weeks. You've been able to bank on that.
All right, last second lock-ins for Fnatic. That's going to be a Trundle and Ezreal. So, Karma mid,
yes.
Trundle support.
Yes, it's going to be Karma mid, Trundle support with Gnar up in that top lane. So this is the first time Fnatic are going to be running this Karma in the middle lane, and that may very well present a bit of a challenge for Splyce in what they pick, but also Karma, you would expect up against the Kassadin not to be able to kill the Kassadin early, pre-6. So, although Karma is safe, so is Kassadin in that setup, and it allows them to get through that early game phase where Kassadin still is okay, but is able to, power up a little bit stronger. So they don't have the engage from the Ashe. They have the Ezreal to kind of poke around a little bit, and Fnatic going a little different on what we've seen from them in previous weeks.
Oh, yes. And even the champions themselves, in my mind, slightly different. You know, Ezreal, that kite and fight, stay at range. Trundle, the pillars also somewhat hiding on the back line, whereas Gnar, Hecarim, Karma, they kind of want to jump in your face. Senkux 3-1 on this Kassadin. Very good stats. What do you make of the two team comps now side by side as the teams are about to jump into match of the week?
So Splyce is very similar to what we've been seeing out of them the last few weeks about strong solo lanes, push out on the side lanes, have those teleports to come in and cut off Fnatic behind the fight. Fnatic on the other side looking to engage on the 3-man stack that's going to sit in the middle lane. If they can get that, they still have some security for Reckless to keep himself safe. They've got Febiven to kind of boost Spirit into a fight, utilizing his speed bursts. So Fnatic still have the engage potential there, but may not be able to cope with that side lane pressure from Splyce.
Going to be so challenging. Picks and bans completed. It is time to watch the fight at the top of the table.
Not long ago, when I was checking the rankings, I was surprised when I saw Splyce third.
So we are fighting against Fnatic for that second spot, which means a lot coming into playoffs.
Reckless going massive. Febiven cleaning house. And that's going to be the ace for Fnatic.
The wall will keep Sunstar alive for a few seconds, but the magical journey delivers wonder for the quadra kill to Senkux. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. There is a pause, so we can't jump into match of the week just yet. I was about to attack the screen as the players are loading up. So we were talking about the team compositions, and quite excited to see how these guys handle the complexities of each comp, because they are very different to what we've been seeing over the last few weeks.
They're in slight little bits and pieces that are different here. The Fiora is something that we haven't seen too much of. A couple of players around the world had been picking Fiora anyway, but certainly the buffs on 614 have kind of assisted with that. So looking at exactly what Splyce want to do, without Trashy on Rek'Sai, I felt last week their 1-3-1 style was slightly hamstrung by the fact that Trashy just, quite frankly, couldn't get places fast enough. And it meant that assisting Senkux, assisting Wonder, just wasn't quite up to speed. And now that they've gone for this Gragas, for the disengage potential over the Rek'Sai, I'm very interested to see whether protecting copy is now going to be worth kind of maybe not being able to assist Wonder and Senkux quite as quickly.
I also think it's going to have the added value of allowing Cobby, Senkux, and Wonder to pick out their single targets. You know, if Trashy can get a very disruptive ultimate, get rid of all of Fnatic, who, you know, they gain strength when they're close together. If Karma, Hecarim, Gnar, Ezreal can all focus in a bundle, they're great, but the moment they get split up and you can have 1v1s, 2v2s a little more frequently, that can be where Splyce comes into their own. Obviously, we can see the tech guys on stage, busy working on, I believe that was Wonder's PC. It is it's a headset problem with Kickus. That is who I was looking at. Wrong blonde hair.
There's a lot on stage. There's a lot of blonde hair, a couple of Danes down there. So, you know, it's, you're forgiven, Trevor. Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
I want to talk a little bit about Trashy's jungle style in comparison to Spirit. We know Spirit typically likes to farm up quite heavily and, you know, can appear in lane from time to time in the early game. Trashy in this kind of style, I feel, is going to go back kind of to his counter ganking style where he just hovers around lanes, doesn't always get aggressively into the enemy lanes, but certainly he has that potential.
Wow, potential indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, we believe the headset is working. So how about we jump into the match of the week? It's Fnatic trying to hold on to their second place seed for playoffs. And it's the young, hungry upstarts of Splyce looking to take Fnatic down. You touched on the CS stress.
Yep.
Spirit's traditionally up 7 by 10 minutes.
That's quite a lot of CS out of the jungle when you look at it. I'm so hyped to get into this matchup. I turned before the camera was off. I was like, I'm getting in. Don't worry about me, Trev. I'm going for this. So early standpoint, looking at it with the duos in the bottom lane. Still early enough to swap around if the information and the feeling is just right. Of course, with 6.14, all of the lane swap stuff that came out when it comes to news is coming on 6.15.
Yep.
Don't worry about that for anybody that read about the update. 6.14 is where we are, but the team comps don't look all that different, just that Fiora. We got a Mountain Drake as our first Drake, so for Fnatic, we'll see if they end up prioritizing that, but they're going to swap it around. That will give them priority on the second phase of the lane swap, should they want that Dragon.
Okay, so options in for Fnatic if they play the next few stages correctly, which we come to expect. Both Fnatic and Splyce showing really great consistency, I think, in their level of play over the last few weeks, 2 to 3. And the reason I mention that word specifically, Kick is obviously now starting to settle in, played 2 full weeks with the team, just 1 week, sorry. And now we can test against some of the stronger opponents as well. Is Kickis plus Fnatic still so much stronger than Gamsu plus Fnatic with Reckless? Yellow Star, they're going in actually. Yellow gonna cut off an escape. First Mystic Shot misses. A lot of damage down. Exhaust onto Trashy. A little bit opportunistic, but you're not going to need that for a little while.
Yeah, that's just to try and deny Trashy the rest of his jungle pathing here. Mickey's going to try and come in now and do the same, but he's a Braum. For him to do that, he has to put himself in range of Gnar and of Hecarim, who still have a fair amount of damage this early on, even though they are level 1. So for Trashy, that's going to be a very frustrating start to him. Get zoned away from his red buff, and realistically, he can't actually come up here and get that red buff anytime soon. But look at the early trading coming out from Wonder. Now that he knows he's in a 2v1, he's going to have to play this a lot safer, but you could see the early damage coming onto Reckless.
Yeah, and those buffs are going to help him out a lot more on the ratio as well, so every time Wonder is able to land that Q. We are into a full lane swap, and Tower's going down at about the same pace.
We are into a lane swap. Kikis didn't have to use his TP though, so Fnatic have teleport advantage in the second phase if something goes wrong for Splyce and they get drawn into a fight, but typically we don't see that very often.
No, we don't. And I think it's also important to note 4 teleports this game.
Yep.
We've kind of seen the double TP each side kind of disappear for a little while. Only infrequently showing up as those control mages, some of them at least, doing better with either a combat summoner or another utility summoner. Senkux, even on Feby for now, in terms of CS with the wave pushing towards him. So this is very comfortable for Senkux.
But this is going to end up pretty bad for Splyce. Look, Fnatic are already recalling, and they're going to have to back away from this for another couple of moments. The Ezreal, the empowerment, plus, of course, Kikis being pretty good with the Gnar pushing towers. This is a long delay on the actual respawn. Or the recall here, but you can see Reckless is actually sitting in base just to wait for Yellow Star so that he doesn't walk into a 1 versus 2 scenario. The fact that Splyce is still here means they could have made an adaptation awaiting Reckless. He waits for his support. He's going to be safe as he goes back to the lane. But that's a heavy delay, and it gives Kikis a lot of extra time up in that top lane to get some farm, get some experience that Wonder will not get that luxury.
Yeah, Wonder's still level 2 in lane for the time being, but you can see how quickly Reckless and Yellowstar are approaching. The moment they appear in lane, Wonder will do the smart thing and back away. So he's got himself on 3 CS, going to be out CS. Take a look at the minimap. Kikis still farming. You can always tell how much further ahead a team is in tempo by how quickly 180 carry gets to lane versus the opponent. Kobbe only going to get in there now. I'm looking at experience for Kikis. He should hit 3.
Just sneaks level 3 as he's backing away. So it's not the massive scenario where it's like he's 20 CS up ahead, but it's still very nice for Kikis with the pace of this game, how it's going, that Kikis can get himself the level advantage. And now I believe Fnatic, as Kikis recalls, yeah, they're going to use this TP into the bottom lane, get the faster push now on the top side, and this is where the ripple effect will come from, because this could end up transitioning into a Mountain Dragon as their own tower dies, and it means you've traded the towers plus got the Dragon objective without really losing too much on the pace.
Yeah, no additional farm, no additional CS or experience. Big advantage to Fnatic, just from being a little quicker on the draw, having their members on the tower earlier. Duo lane from Fnatic has already peeled out. Going to give Kikis the full wave, and look at Spirit, straight to the Dragon.
Yeah, pings have gone down straight to the Dragon now. Here is something that Featherman's doing that can be punished in another couple of minutes. You just saw Featherman teleport into lane. What that now gives over Splyce, once Wonderware's TP is available, is the possibility for a 4 versus 2 fight at a minimum. If they can actually trap in the Fnatic bot lane, if they overextend in about 2 or 3 minutes, they can punish it if Senkux doesn't get chunked out. Yeah. He may have to use his teleport after recalling now as well. But here's Fnatic getting the Dragon. You can see they haven't even lost their tower yet as they get this.
Yeah, fantastic advantage. Actually, they get the Dragon before Splyce can even take the tower. That is a really, really large lead. Got to take a look at Kikis. He's approaching level 4. Actually, will just hit it very soon. 2 levels over Wonder, 23 CS to 24. That is good when you consider the matchup as well. Wonder wants to be able to 1v1.
Exactly. You've got to look at the intent for both of these laners right now. Is Kikis is the same kind of style. He can 1v1, but if he falls behind against the Fiora, it becomes very difficult. Fiora with items can easily get past the Gnar if you end up getting 2-3 items. The problem is for Splyce to do that, they need Wonder to be ahead. He's now behind on Kikis. If Fnatic also get Kikis the Rift Herald buff as well, it makes Wonder's impact in the game so much later on as a split pusher that it actually could become a non-factor. You've got a Kassadin that's waiting, you've got a Fiora that's waiting. If they're both behind, Fnatic could just take over this game.
Yeah, and especially when you add in how they could do it. You know, two laners behind, and then you add Hecarim, Gnar, and Karma into a Splyce anything. That is a very, very troubling prospect to deal with.
You can see the intent from Fnatic as well. Kick is already running up through the mid lane. The possibility of drifting to Rift Herald is fairly open for Fnatic right now. With the duo lane from Splyce being on the bottom side, there's no real way that they could have contested yet, but you can see Splyce already making the adaptation, bring the duo lane back to the top side, make sure that Fnatic don't get this too easy.
All right, number of options here for Fnatic. If they get good enough vision, this could set up a Herald, but nobody's going for it just yet. I notice Spirit is leaving the area.
And as soon now as Splyce have brought their duo lane topside, it gives Kikis the freedom to compound this lead that he's already had against Wonderware, because the wave is pushed so far away. Kobbe's going to take priority here in the top side, and Wonder is now without farm. This maintains the lead that Kikis has. Despite not getting the Rift Herald, they're able to keep him ahead in experience, keep him ahead in farm, and just keep edging this matchup in Kikis' favor.
All right, big advantages for Fnatic as they continue to really come out ahead from the lane swap, you know? Having that faster tempo, having the ability to make the first move, and that's really what it translates to every time we look middle. Senkux is just being slapped around by Featherman. He's farming fairly well, but taking a lot of damage in the process.
One thing that we haven't really picked up too much on is that for all that's going on in the top laner matchup, the AD carries is kind of the opposite story from this. Reckless typically, plays these AD carries that get a lot of farm between 10 and 20 minutes rather than early on. Whether it's standard lanes, whether it's a lane swap, he typically ends up behind on CS, but makes up for it later into the game. And the same thing is kind of happening again. Kobbe is able to just get a pretty significant lead for now, but Fnatic, when they allocate resources, Reckless will sit mid for a long time on this Ezreal. We've seen that before from Fnatic, and they'll get him into the game a little bit later at the benefit of getting Kikis into the game early.
Well, that's a gigantic benefit, if you ask me. We're approaching 9 minutes. There's Kobbe shoving in the inner turret top. No one from Fnatic's here to defend, so this should be decent damage. Some respect from Kobbe, though. Opts not to stick around. And the rest of Fnatic actually got thwarted. They're trying to siege in that bottom lane. Potential shenanigans here. Featherman takes a little bit of damage, but The good pillar of ice from Yellow Star means nobody from Splyce can re-engage.
A lot of people look at what Kobbe just did and say, hey, why didn't he get picked off there? Why weren't Fnatic collapsing on a Jhin that's overextended top lane? And the reason for that is Kikis and multiple Fnatic members had showed bottom side, 2 members had showed mid, and he had a ward. This pink ward that's in the jungle just off screen there is able to hold the vision. They knew that Featherman's teleport was not available yet, so there was no chance of a 2 versus 1. He had enough vision, is able to keep himself safe and back away. Doesn't overextend too far, but it is a risky play nonetheless.
Well, luckily no mistakes yet as we hit 10 minutes. Completely even game, with the exception of 1 dragon that Fnatic were able to take. So,
Kikis, he's got Mega now soon.
All right, let's find out. Kobbe forced to flash early. True shot barrage tags Kobbe. There goes a rampaging Hecarim. Spirit helps Kikis for first blood.
And we just talked about how previously Kobbe was safe. This time, Kobbe was not, because Wonder is trying to freeze to get himself into the game in the bottom lane, and Fnatic punish it on the top side of the map by grouping on the overextended Splyce members. They take out Kobbe, put him down, and that is going to allow Reckless to get the farm advantage now and give Fnatic another boost when it comes to the gold. Everybody's waiting for mid lane.
Flash and Riftwalk available. Senkux uses both. Here comes Spirit. Flash forward. What a great knockback. Senkux gets taken down. And that was beautifully played.
Oh, we're not done. Hang on, the pillar's about to die. The tower.
The tower's down. Flash forward from Kikis. He gets a knockbar into the wall. Mickey's in trouble. Eats the chimney. Continues to run away, but the tower thwarts Fnatic's attempt. And Fnatic get 2 kills and a tower.
And Featherman has slowly been working down the tower, slowly been working Senkux down. You can see the lead that he's had already. So Fnatic turn from the kill on Kobbe and say, okay, let's now prioritize Senkux. He's on this Kassadin. Yes, he has Riftwalk, but a great pillar comes out here from Yellow Star because Senkux wants to hold his Riftwalk for a little bit longer, get just extra distance on this. Perfect knockback from Spirit, holds him in that mid lane. And it's an easy pickup here. Fnatic get the tower. They don't quite get too much more from it, but they still get another couple of summoners. They get a good combo with the double wallop as well. Force Mickey to flash. Again, Fnatic are pressuring out Splyce because they have fallen behind in the top lane in the early part of the game, and they've got a mid laner who needs extra time. It's good priority by Fnatic.
1,600 gold, nearly 2K in the lead. Wonder's got a flash available, a grand challenge is issued, and Yellow is not standing to reply. Hyper gets procced as Kikis continues to run forward. Onslaught of shadows, throws Wonder backwards, a kick is done, and Spirit, he's got 2.
Again, it's Splyce trying to be a little greedy here. Wonderwear pushes too far down in the solo lane after freezing. He had that giant wave and wanted to be greedy. He wanted to shove it all the way back into Fnatic and try and punish to have them lose some experience, lose some farm. Problem is, Fnatic had regrouped on the map. They were able to easily 3 versus 1 in the bottom lane, and Wonder gets punished despite closing and opening a CS gap of his own. It's still Kikis that's going to be in the lead.
And ladies and gentlemen, get your party hats because the first Cloud Dragon of 6.14 is taken. After the buffs on the patch, did some numbers. Some of the guys in the office ran some tests, and it is quicker, especially on rank 2, getting back to that mid lane. Now we need to see whether or not Fnatic can use that quicker travel time to their advantage.
Yeah, it's a little bit better. 1 on its own, probably not worth celebrating about, but 3 and you are going to be flying. Even 2 when you're flying. A lot of increased benefit to it.
Pun.
Yeah, well, you know,
had to call it out.
It's easy at that point, Trev. But the real benefit is that, okay, it's still not worth dying over in a massive team fight, but is more beneficial than the old Cloud Dragon. So go get them.
Get him? Okay.
That's all I've got. Go get them Cloud Drakes.
Yeah, it kind of ended in a bit of a downturn, but Fnatic in a great position.
So does getting Cloud Drake normally, or previously, but now it's good. It's good. We can feel a little bit better about it.
Plus 3,000 gold, plus 2 towers, a couple of kills as well. And Fnatic are just coming away from this early game feeling very good. In my mind, I've not seen those types of overextended plays from Splyce in a while, you know? Multiple of them, back to back to back. But it's also forced errors from Fnatic. Senkux was simply farming at his tower and got collapsed on. So it's good play by Fnatic, punishing some of the decisions by Splyce.
A lot of the overextensions that Splyce did were fairly, not minor as such, but it's Splyce just trying to cut a little corner to get themselves into the game a bit faster. Now they've got the Kassadin out on the side lane. There's no real way that Featherman can hold it 1 versus 1. He can kind of maintain presence in the lane, but he can never dominate that matchup against the Kassadin. Wonderware now out on the side lane is up in CS and has a fair amount now when it comes to the itemization. Of course, Wonder and Fiora just in general had those buffs on 6-14. Yeah. Wonder didn't get buffed.
Well, he did because he's playing the champion.
That's true.
So I'll say it counts.
I want to put some numbers to it. If you just have Tiamat and a Doran's Blade, which isn't quite what Wonder has right now, the buffs when you get to like 3rd rank of Q give him like 16 extra damage. It's not a massive buff, but you pair that with the healing increase that Fiora got from proccing those vitals, it starts mounting up in extended trade scenarios. If you get multiple Qs out, it starts adding up, you combo it with everything else from the kit. And it's just these kind of quality of life tweaks. It's not a massive, massive buff that's going to make everybody play Fiora.
Yeah, but especially in those longer lanes where you're going to get 2, 3, 4 lunges off, that quickly adds up to 80 to 100 HP. All right, Spirit is ghosting in here, looking for Senkax. Flash not available just yet. Devastating charge backwards. Spirit continues to rampage down. This is a one-on-one. This is a jungler versus a mid lane, and Senkax does not have the strength. Febi's looking for
Flash is nearly up.
Spirit's looking for Senkax. Flash will come up. Two-shot barrage sidestep. Spirit, he needs a devastating charge. The boot forward is not going to be enough. A barrel throws Spirit under the tower. He's knocked into the air, but it's Gragas that goes down. I didn't even see the damage on Trashy. Fnatic still make it count. They trade 1 for 1.
Damage came from Reckless in that scenario as he managed to regroup up in the top side. That looked so dire for Senkax, just being able to get himself out of that. Fnatic perhaps chasing a little too deep for that from Spirit, but I don't think he was anticipating just surviving on single damage, single-digit health at that point. Senkax just barely got his flash up and available during that trade. Instantly had it popped again.
Terrifying the amount of damage Spirit can put down, though. I mean, okay, to be fair, Senkax only has a rower. It's got about 3-4 stacks when that fight happened. He had, obviously, a Dark Seal amped home recently, so not the biggest amount, really, of AP or anything to work from. But that's what you need for a Hecarim. If Hecarims don't have that advantage, multiple LCS players have told us that it is not worth it.
Yeah.
And Rift Herald should be here donated to Kickers.
Yeah, this one should go over to Kickers, as you said. He's going to grab that. Trashy can't do too much about it. And in general, Trashy's role is very different from Spirit's. And after this little exchange, when you look at the whole game through, Spirit actually ended up, has so far done 4,000 damage to Trashy's 1,000, as Trashy has mainly been about disengaging. But look at how kind of fortunate Senkax is here. Flash comes up just about now in the exchange, so he's holding it. Good sidestep from Senkax. Didn't really praise him too much the first time on that one. So Trashy was now in the fight. Here come Yellowstar and Reckless. Good flash in and a knockup. Massive damage from Febiven comboed with Reckless there as well. And Senkax managed to get himself out alive, but it was at the cost of his jungler's life.
I mean, even though Trashy's a big lad on Gragas, he's running Runic Echo, so he gets destroyed very, very quickly. I was watching Reckless more closely in the replays. Thanks. Hand weapon thing. I actually don't know what it's just.
I don't know what it's called.
Yeah. Sorry.
Pip boy?
Yeah, Pip. I like that. I like that. Pip girl, actually.
A Pip girl. I was going to say the voice is, yeah.
But yeah, Trashy just, there's no tankiness. A Ruby Crystal and Cloth Armor. That's it. That's what he's working with. Got those Lucy boots, so as much disengage as possible. But he's going to need it all. Frozen Mallet on Kickers, Iceborne, as well as Manamune for Reckless. That's slowly scaling up to Muramana. Fnatic are nearly fully online, and Dragon's about to come up.
Yeah, and Spirit's getting that second item, Trinity Force, here on the Hecarim. It's the style that everybody loves to watch, but hates to watch when it's behind, because you just die. But Spirit 2-on-1 overall in this game. You can see Grand Challenge comes out from Wonder. Kigis is fairly tanky on his own. The fact that he's got that Frozen Mallet, that's all about slowing down Wonder in that scenario, in the long lane. This is what we used to see time and time again in the Gnar versus Fiora matchup. If you can prevent Fiora from ever getting on you, almost impossible for it to win in those 1v1s.
Yeah, and that's all Kikis wants to do. Important to note as well, plus 20 CS without Grand Challenge and with Mega Gnar being primed, Kikis, he fancies his chances not past the tower.
It's going to happen time and time again. This was one of the real staple matches of last year's Worlds and the lead up to it. There was a Darius in the mix as well, but there was a lot of Gnar, a lot of Fiora that came out. And again, I suppose for these players, I guess it didn't really matter to them at the time because they weren't at Worlds, but it's a matchup that has been played out so often that Kikis is just going straight back into that meta. Frozen Mallet, get himself ahead in the 1v1. It helps that the team facilitated it early.
Absolutely does. With the help of Spirit, Kikis takes down the tower. We caught a glimpse of that picture-in-picture of Werlib, actually, backstage as well when Gumsy was removed from the roster. Kikis and Werlib were brought in. But I want to draw your attention to the bottom left of the screen. As we're getting to 20 minutes, ladies and gentlemen, next week's LCS will be on Saturday and Sunday. Mark your calendars. It will not be on Thursday and Friday. So just be sure to make note of that. We will be starting again at 12 Central European summertime. So spread the word, spread the love, get it on Reddit. Let everyone know. Week 9 next week, Saturday, Sunday shows.
What if your calendar's not named Mark?
Well, whatever it is then. Name your calendar, then write in it.
Okay. Nailed it. Good. Good job. I've set the date, saved it. Splyce right now trying to save this game for themselves. There's, maybe next week they can make up the points, but they'd love to at least slow Fnatic down in this series.
There is still some chance here for Splyce because Fnatic have 2 mountains. Another mountain is spawning. What that means? Baron is going to be screaming, kill me. Because Mountain Drakes are going to speed that up, and they've got a lot of damage from the rest of the comp. Fnatic, however, as a team, have shown some mistakes when playing around the Baron buff, with sticking in the pit, not peeling at the right time, and it has cost them points in the last 2 weeks.
They have, but Fnatic, with those 2 Mountain Drakes already, if they get a 3rd here, they can easily prioritize that. Just make sure that Baron is warded here. And as soon as they then turn onto Baron, with then 3 Mountain Drakes, there is such a fast potential to do that. As we're seeing out in the side lanes, not as successful this game for Splyce. We were wondering how the lack of Rek'Sai would affect this for Splyce. I don't think that's been the contributing factor to why their side lanes aren't quite doing so well. Wonder just fell behind in the lane swap, and Senkux got pressured out by Fnatic in that middle lane. But it still isn't helping them. They're just trying to play disengaged now with Trashy, and it's not offering them many options when it comes to being active on the map.
Yeah, I mean, by picking Gragas over Rek'Sai, they sort of opted out of the earlier game pressure.
Yeah.
In addition to the fact there was a lane swap, and that Splyce fell behind in that lane swap. You know, all of those factors add up, and it means that Fnatic are 4,000 gold up. Cobby takes, I think, just a single Mystic shot. Uses a big chunk of HP. Muramana completed as well as that Iceborne. And Febiven continues to bully Senkux around. Plus about 20 CS, Death Cap, and Athenes. We're just going to be pushing Splyce in over and over. Ooh, Senkux is going to be careful. The last time he was in a position like this, Fnatic dove him and killed him. Squirt's going to go for that devastating charge, but Senkux was able to rift walk away.
Senkux playing with a bit of fire there in that bottom lane. It's the reason he didn't go on Febiven when they were 1 versus 1. They didn't have the vision to see who was cutting across. As soon as Senkux actually saw 3 people, he started playing with some trades, but didn't really want to go too far aggressive. But you can see that Wonderwear cannot sit in the lane against Kikis despite being up in CS already and getting to a couple of items worth. He just doesn't want to sit that far out against the Gnar, because Gnar will very quickly stack up Mega Gnar, then go aggressive, and if anybody else is there, suddenly Wonder is in a lot of trouble. So he has to play this 1v1 matchup very cautiously.
Now is where the match of the week really begins to shine. Fnatic have a lead, a sizable lead. And we need to look at how much they've learned in terms of pressing that advantage. Currently, dancing between lanes is going to allow them to chip down this mid-inner turret. Splyce, though, look to defend.
And this is where this Kassadin pick really hinders what Splyce want to do. Kassadin, since the beginning of time, has always, when in a team composition, reduced the amount of wave clear you have in a sieging situation. So for Splyce right now, they have Gragas with Runic Echoes. That's one of the reasons why he's gone that way. And Cobby on this Jhin, when he has his ultimate available and that dancing grenade, is kind of fragile wave clear. Like, it still will do the job, but it is not the same as a Victor and a Zia, somebody that sits there and just clears the wave in one shot.
Looking at it as well, what are Splyce's engage options? You know, you've got 2 champions that are primarily disengaging, Gragas and Braum.
Yep.
Yes, they can work, but the moment you throw yourselves forward, Karma, Ezreal, Trundle peel backwards. And you know what? The moment Splyce become a little split up, the re-engage from a Hector and Gnar works well. This is a great pick and ban and executed well for Fnatic.
But realistically, Splyce are never going to be looking for an engage. If they're looking for a 5v5 engage, Splyce are playing their composition wrong. They never want to be the ones using the Gragas ult to engage, because at that point you've basically removed all disengage from your composition, and you're relying on the damage from Fiora and Kassadin being enough to win the fight, which right now it isn't quite on its own. The Kassadin is getting stronger, the Fiora is getting stronger as well, and will ultimately end up kind of being able to edge out this matchup when she doesn't have to be too bothered by the Gnar sitting in lane in Mini Gnar, but it's only being able to close that gap, dominate the side lanes, and then cut in with teleports or flanks from the side that you can end up getting that. Wonder wants to trade with Kikis here.
Kikis flashes, but he got tagged by the Winter's Bite. Mega Gnar will proc, but so does the healing for Mickey and Wonder. They get themselves a second kill.
Good transfer there from Mickey to get himself up to the top side, assist with the crowd control, and deny the transformation coming out from Kikis. Finally, Wonder is starting to feel confident in this matchup the later we go here, but Fnatic are going to utilize the fact that there was so much attention top lane to grab themselves a third Mountain Drake, and from here this game becomes very precarious for Splyce. They cannot allow Fnatic the time to go to Baron, or they could end up easily having it taken down.
And it goes even further. They can't allow them to go to Baron, can't really do much against Fnatic if they group up under an inner turret either. And that mountain buff is going to help so much. Next one's going to be Cloud as well, so flying for days. Trashy's going to pick up onslaughts of shadows. There's not enough tankiness. Ghost comes down from Spirit. Rampage. Willen interrupted by the barrel. Decent enough body slam from Trashy. Chilling Smite comes down. Spirit has got 3.
And this is what Trashy likes to do when he's on the Rex side. It's kind of similar on the Gragas, still has the same kind of mobility, but this time Wonder was already bailing out. Trashy was a little overextended, so this isn't a champion-based thing, it's a Trashy thing. He likes to sit in between those lanes, but mid lane wasn't shoved up. That mid tower still stands, and Splyce, Senkux wants to come in from the backside. If he can get on Reckless, he can maybe pop him.
Feathervin's teleported in, true shot barrage. Cobby's in trouble. He's got a shield for a few more seconds, but Reckless, Arcane shift over the wall. Now Reckless is down for being aggressive. The rest of Splyce are trying to surround Fnatic. The fight's broken out on multiple fronts. Spirit's already taken down Mickey on the side lane. Wonder and Senkux, they're trying to kill a Mega Gnar. He's a Mega Gnar. That's going to be tough. Wonder's continuing to rampage away, lunging forward, dashes over the wall, but can't find a vital. Kikis is looking to use the hyper, get excited. Spur and Yellow on the back foot, and the devastating charge against the wall. It won't kill though. Senkux stays alive. Wonder goes forward, riposte into lunge. Fnatic are wiped.
The strength of the duelists shows in the extended fight. Reckless fell early on in this. Feathervin became an easy target, and after that Fnatic's health bars were too low that they couldn't quite balance the rest of the fight. This was the initial pick onto Trashy that basically signals Fnatic to go here. They know that Wonder is still in the top side, so they feel like they have the numbers advantage here. Trashy ends up falling, and that's going to result ultimately in this kill, and then transfers into the rest of the fight as we head into the bottom side jungle. Eyes on the left side of your screen. Splyce are doing Baron. It is dying at a decent pace right now, but look, this was the rest of the engage from Splyce. Splyce have just taken the Baron in the live timing. Reckless got chunked so low to begin this off, but chases Cobby right into the arms of Wonder, and from here, look, Featherman gets obliterated by Senkux as he comes over the wall, and just the balancing here. Fnatic are trying to play a very dangerous game. Yellowstar defends his vitals, Kikis does not, and from here, it's a game of Senkux mana bar. That's what you need to keep your eyes on here. He goes forward, runs out of mana, but Rod of Ages, remember the changes now, he gets a big spike of mana back, and it allows him to get the first kill. From there, it's all on the duelists. They carry on, and Splyce ultimately even up the kills, grab themselves a Baron, and have evened this game right back up.
Unbelievable. Yamato Cannon backstage cannot believe his eyes. Punishing Fnatic's decision to go aggressive. All 25 minutes of good work undone. Completely undone. Now split pushing with Baron buff. Spirit
Fnatic want to go.
Engage. They know Wonder's not there. Mickey's got a good unbreakable. Look at Senkux. Cobby's pinned against the wall.
Kikis.
Here comes Kikis from behind. Cobby's going to get shut down. Not before Reckless is killed. Senkux stays alive. The magic shield is massive. Got himself a triple. Looking for a quadra. Kikis pins him against the wall. Shuts down Senkux before getting shut down himself. 4 for 2, and Fnatic started the fight.
The solo laners have become near unstoppable for Splyce when it comes to their damage. This is now a 5-1 Fiora and a 4-2 Kassadin, which means as soon as they join the fight, Fnatic have to be prepared to get them out of there, or there is no way of Fnatic from taking the fight. Again, it's Fnatic engaging on Splyce, and Splyce are going to end up with a big, big win here as they're going to get the inhibitor.
20 seconds for Kickers, 15 for Febby. Inhibitor will be chunked, but not enough to kill it. Splyce, play this one safe. Spirit fancies at least a sniff, but he's got no support. Forced to run away. That Trinity Force second item now starting to hurt even more, considering how fed the solo laners are for Splyce.
The reason Splyce didn't stick around is because it was all melee range champions. This was Fnatic's engage. TP comes in from the back, but Kickers has only just come back from base. No Mega Nara at first means he's only trying to deal damage. Cobby dies fairly early on in this fight. Senkux is able to stay alive just from shields and the sheer damage he can put out in those short bursts of time. From here, in comes Wonder, untouched in the fight, had to run his way up from the other side of the map, but he manages to close it in, and Splyce have exposed an inhibitor from Fnatic. This has been a complete turnaround over the last few minutes.
Now, Splyce have the 3,000 gold lead. Next dragon is Cloud. This is going to bum Splyce out because the only dragon that they're likely to pick up before Elder is a possibility will be that lowly Cloud. Just bite the buffs.
But hang on, there are benefits to that because, of course, the increased maneuverability around the map could allow them potentially to outmaneuver Splyce. Then utilize the 3 Mountain Dragons to push down a tower fairly quickly. Keep in mind, this is now revamped Cloud Dragon. That's 50 extra movement speed if they manage to get the second one, but screw the movement speed, look at the damage.
Hey,
6,700.
Only dealt 10 times the damage of Featherville in a fight where he was initiated on. I think that's crucial. Fnatic started that fight. And that was what happened.
Senkux basically ended it.
Yeah, he kill secured. He kill secured. That 800 damage, +1 to his kill score. Definitely worthwhile. An unchallenged tower in the top lane.
And we were looking at this in Champ Select, is like Fnatic typically have given this Karma over to Yellowstar. It changes Febiven's role fairly significantly. If Febiven, you know, he's been playing a lot of Azir, he played Zillion last week, which is the same kind of utility pick that we're seeing now from Fnatic. So he's had varied roles, but I certainly feel like Fnatic feel a little bit more comfortable when there's more damage coming from their mid laner as well. But Febiven in this game has done a decent job of holding Senkux up the side lanes, but apart from that, has kind of been quiet because of his role.
See, I also prefer seeing Febiven on those types of champions. Because the supportive ones, they are great, but a player of Febiven's caliber can be game-changing. Unfortunately, hasn't been the case today. Inhibitor's still open in the mid lane, obviously, the tower's killed. But Splyce, they're up 4,000 gold. They've got themselves a 70 CS advantage with Wonder over Kikis. And Kikis is the man being jumped on. The rest of Splyce trying to zone him away. 4-man stack on that bottom lane.
Kikis has prioritized only armor and health as well. He has no magic resist, which means when he faces off against Senkux, Senkux is going to laugh in his face and just jump around him and easily take him out from fights. So, although Kikis, of course, will have the magic resist that comes from being Mega Nara, has not prioritized it for himself. It is nowhere near enough.
Not enough against Hourglass, Morello's, fully stacked Roa, Senkux. I just took a look at his gold as well, sitting at 2,400. And now a Void Staff.
Yeah, Void Staff comes out just to make short work of whatever is available for Fnatic. Wonder's going to hop over the wall, gets followed.
Decent enough for a pass, but I think he was still caught by the fear. Wonder's in trouble. The heal from the Vital comes up. Grand Challenge will not be answered. Luckily for Wonder, there's still 90 seconds to Baron. But Fnatic get themselves a small reprieve from the pressure of side lane Fiora.
Yeah, you've always got to be careful. This Fnatic lineup when it comes to mobility, closing a gap. They've got one Cloud Drake, they've got Karma, they've got a Hecker in there as well. They're going to catch up to somebody if they're out of position. Unless maybe it's the Kassadin, maybe. Yeah. Kassadin tends to be pretty good on that.
One time they've been able to jump him and kill him. The second time his flash came up, they was able to escape.
Yep.
So third time, we'll decide whether we can agree or disagree with that statement. That's what I'm trying to get to.
That's fair.
Guardian Angel picked up by Wonder after his little oopsie a moment ago.
The problem is, for that oopsie, that wouldn't have helped.
No.
So now, for the next oopsie, maybe it'll help him. Maybe the rest of the team will be around.
It's future oopsie proofing.
Yeah.
That is the point of that item. looking at the vision, Fnatic not necessarily committing deep to the top quadrant around Baron.
Look, Kikis has now Yellow Star with him. They already take the tower because they got 3 Mountain Drakes. I mean, every time they hit a tower, it just loses so much health. So Fnatic are able to kind of play on 2 lanes now, while Splyce are playing on 3. But Fnatic, of course, do have a lot of damage done to the structures of Splyce from earlier in the game when it came to their outer towers. But Splyce have managed to even that up and even take the lead on towers.
I was talking about the vision, and I don't see any wards from Splyce around Baron. That is important because, like you mentioned, Stress, that Mountain Drakes times 3, plus 30% damage to epic monsters, with all of the damage from the Gnar, the Hecarim, the Ezreal, it will
Look where Spirit's coming. Hang on, here comes the fight. They've already forced a TP out of Senkux. They can back away. Fnatic back away after getting 1 TP.
Yeah, but they're not done yet. Trashy knocks Febiven back against the wall. Now Febi's split. Spirit comes in from the side, but he's already lost the mid laner. Trashy re-engages on Yellow Star. Grand challenge is issued by Wonder, and Spirit's running for his life. Onslaught of Shadows won't save him. Yellow Star's in trouble. The challenge times out. Wonder gets the 3rd kill of the fight in favor of Splyce.
That could end up just being the game here from Splyce. They're going to be able to take the inhibitor. They can either look to stick around if they don't feel like Reckless and Kikis can do enough, or they may back out for Baron here. But it looks like they want to push through for now. They have to be careful of this wave clear, though, and the engage potential that's going to come out from it. Splyce have to play this carefully. New wave of minions is coming. They want to end this game.
It's a 2 versus 5, and the no MR from Kikis. He's already lost half of his HP. Rooted, Reckless is caught. Senkux takes him down, engages with the Riftwalk. Nexus turrets are dropping, and after losing the early game, Splyce bounce back and take down Fnatic.
Fantastic turnaround in this game. Splyce hold their composure, and at the end, it's Fnatic looking to get an engage out of perhaps desperation that they don't quite back out of fast enough. They get caught by the long-range combo of the Jhin lockdown onto Febiven, and there was nothing Fnatic could do in that scenario. They were already caught. That was it. Game was done as soon as Splyce were able to get that 1 pick.
Fantastic game from Splyce. That's not fair. Fantastic game from both teams, because Fnatic had a significantly better early and mid game, and just a series of very, very quick decisions in one team fight turned it all around for Splyce. The moment Senkux and Wonder got enabled with that Baron, it just ran away for the game in favor of Splyce.
I really enjoyed that game because, like, a lot of different things at work here. The early game advantage that Kikis got allowed him to hold Wonder, but Wonder knowing the matchup as well. He knew that point in the top lane. One of the significant moments in this game was when Wonder and Mickey killed Kikis in the top lane. Wonder had already done the hard work. He just needed the lockdown. That then put the fear into Kikis because he knows he can't sit in that matchup. It transitions later into the fight that Splyce end up turning around because they bring Wonder in, they bring Senkux in for the late game cleanup, and really well-played game, I actually feel like, for both teams. There were mistakes by both teams, but still an enjoyable game that I think is actually
one of the
a better level than a lot of the games that we've seen over the last few weeks.
That to me is, I think, a little bit more important because, yes, Splyce fell behind in the lane swap, and I think you can criticize some of the decision-making, especially giving up those 3 kills. I'm going to let the Senkux one off the hook because I think he was at his tower. I think he disrespected the vision and the dive power. That's what got him caught, but not as impactful as, say, Kobe or Wonder getting caught overextended. But the transition then to play very passive, to play very defensive, Splyce didn't give up more. You know, once they got to 15 to 25 minutes, they were behind the same amount of gold the entire time, and it was very impressive to see.
Yeah, very impressive Splyce, very strong solo laners in the end of the game. That's what they were looking for with that comp, and they managed to make it work in the end.
Phenomenal work. Senkux ended up dealing more damage than Kikis and Reckless combined. Let's hear from the analyst desk about that game.
Thank you very much, guys. And we want to immediately jump on to what you guys mentioned as well. Splyce falling behind in that early game, and we looked a little bit deeper into what could have caused that. We've got a replay for you as well. Looking at the farm stats for both junglers in lane swaps, Spirit is actually the best in farming in lane swaps, and Trashy is the 2nd worst. And with that advantage, he just got propelled into this game.
Yeah, Spirit got off to a fantastic start, but this is such a sloppy play from Splyce. Sending Kobe up the river here. I actually hate the play so much because there's 0 reward for him walking this way. The fact he takes the route up the river Ended up costing him his life. All he had to do was wait for minion wave. He could have walked around his own jungle. Here, Synchros gets dove. He should actually flash over the wall and not try and flash back to his tier 2 tower because he knows Ezreal is on top side and he sees 3 guys coming from top side as well, meaning there could only be at maximum 1 guy down there. So actually a mistake from him as well. And there's 2 mistakes now for Splyce.
And you can see Wonder overextending here, but mechanical mistakes aside from what we saw in that casted in the mid lane, consistently in the early game, Splyce were making using imperfect information to make decisions, and it kept costing them more and more.
Yeah, and challenging a bit what they said on the caster decks, that Splyce knew their matchups exactly, but it was Fnatic that wanted to keep Wonder down in that Fiora, and it actually looked like for the longest time that they had succeeded in doing that.
Yeah, basically like Fnatic lane swap early, also because there's a Mountain Drake coming, so once you take the tier 1 towers, you can then take the Mountain Drake after, versus a Jhin who's a bit of a slower pusher compared to Ezreal. So they knew, okay, they could win the lane swap, keep the Fiora down as you just mentioned, and then use the fact that Splyce had to play 1-3-1. Like, Splyce's composition can only split push. Like, that's how it wins games in the mid game. Once you get past the mid game and you get 2 or 3 items on Fiora and Kassadin, you can actually start fighting, like we saw them do in this game, because suddenly you're now strong enough to actually jump in and take down these carries. Before that, you have to play side lanes, and that's what Fnatic tried to shut down, and actually did manage to do so.
And really, I got to praise Fnatic for their early builds and early itemization here. Gnar with Frozen Mallet, not something I'm always a fan to see, but when the only way Fiora is going to kill you is if she gets on top of you, when you already have a lead, you can afford to build it. It looks so good. Similarly, Iceborne Gauntlet for Ezreal, something we know Reckless loves to build when he's against multiple carry teams, but late game, if they get on top of you, those items become worthless, and you'd much rather have a Trinity Force. You'd much rather have a tanky item, and that's exactly what we saw Splyce
Well,
do.
it wasn't even super late game. It was also Splyce coming online with their items at the right time, and then finding the right fights. We got a couple of replays here. The first one is where you think, oh, Fiora, where's Fiora? There's Fiora.
Yeah, so remember Splyce's composition does well if they can skirmish, like dual individual picks at the same time. So because Fnatic are chasing for these kills, they end up splitting up. Reckless jumps the wall, gets 1 shot. Well, then Karma gets 1 shot right after, and now it's just actually one big skirmish. It's not a team fight, it's just multiple of these duelist champions like Fiora and Kassadin singling out picks.
And the Senkux and Wonder duo is honestly just dirty. Wonder basically goes Super Saiyan in this fight, comes out of nowhere. This guy was having negative impact on the map for the longest time, but when it came down to it, when it came down to these clutch fights, they found a good flank, they found a good opportunity, and they just went in.
Yeah, and Wonder playing so well in this fight sets up Splyce for the next team fight. We can just pull it up already because that's basically where Splyce wins the game. And this is where his mid laner decides to carry the entire game. Look at the Kassadin in this fight here. He jumps in on Reckless, takes him down, then jumps on Feb and takes him down. He 1v2'd the 2 carries of Fnatic. Fnatic's composition now has no damage.
And then gets the Ezreal. And the thing was, during the draft, we were so skeptical about this Fiora first pick.
6k damage from a Kassadin in a team fight, what, 25 minutes into the game? When you take down, like when a mid laner can jump at the enemy AD carry in mid laner and not die himself or get forced to flash away your hourglass, something is wrong then. Like Ezreal Karma just had no damage right now against Kassadin. Fiora could jump them over and over. BT Fiora as well, so like tons of sustain. And at this point, Splyce could win every single fight.
Splyce gunning for that 2nd place. That's 1 win. Very good. And a good game also, objectively. It was actually a well-played game from both teams. Can I say that better than what we've seen as a caster?
And I think the thing that blew my mind is when we looked at these compositions, we were talking and we said, whoever gets ahead early is going to win. These compositions are both vulnerable when they're behind. Splyce got behind, and they came back with some amazing decision-making.
Yeah, and just great team fighting. I think that's what you got to praise, the mechanical skill in team fights from Splyce.
Definitely. And Senkuk's fantastic game, and our player of the game is Wonder, because he was in a losing matchup, or a matchup that or he was put behind, rather, but he kept his cool and with the team tried to make it work.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a losing matchup specifically, but more like, so he got lane sold on early, he got put a little bit behind. The reason I think Wonder gets this one, but it's honestly dead even between him and his mid laner here, but the reason he gets it is because the fight that gets Splyce back into the game is where he takes off completely, like takes down multiple carries, together with the Kassadin, to be fair, but he played that perfectly, puts Splyce back into the game, which then sets up the next team fight they used to win the game. They had two big team fights, all they needed.
Yeah, definitely. What do we foresee here for game 2? Fnatic rattled?
Not really. I mean, no, because I don't think they were surprised. The Kassadin we've seen time and time again.
I think they just need to be a little bit smarter about how they play around this composition, because despite their great efforts to split up this team, or to not split up this team, to like play to their side lanes to get these advantages, they still got collapsed on at the one moment that they could not. So it's a single mistake that snowballed this game out of control, and it's not a draft issue or some larger issue overall.
So a bit rattled, but we'll see. Hopefully another good quality game in Game 2. We also want to check in with what happened over on stream EULCS2. In the studio, you were keeping an eye on H2K versus Vitality. It was a rather quick game. It was done before this one, I believe.
Quick was not exactly. I mean, yes, technically quick, but not a very bloody early game. Definitely a much longer game overall, because it was not very interactive in the early game. We saw a Vladimir and a Malzahar on the same team, both of whom were farming up, both of whom were scaling up. Top lane Malzahar against Shen, something we've seen in Korea a whole lot. Obviously Shen, no real way to take away that passive, something we talked about off broadcast. So there's really no way to shut down the Malzahar or gank him. But as we look at the early game coming into this one, well, not even the early game. Early game, farm fest. We get to the mid game when kills finally start rolling in, and H2K managed to pull ahead here. And it really all comes down.
It's a very exciting game.
Yeah,
right?
wow.
We're seeing it.
Cool stuff.
Yeah, this is H2K over there.
Yeah.
I'll be Vitality.
Yeah.
So we did like
So
this for 20 minutes.
To slowly
this is 20 minutes of this, and then this happened.
And then we get this, aggressive play coming in here. And Vitality actually, pick up the kill. But then we look ahead at the Baron attempt coming in here. And things look really grim for H2K. But they managed to pull it out in the end. Look at Ryu on the front lines, just such a massive threat. They get Baron, we come back to more fights in the future, and H2K, after that one fight, just continue to dominate here in these exchanges. You can see Police consistently zoned out. This Hecarim, when he gets strong, is absolutely terrifying. And after a pretty bloody mid-game exchange, they managed to pull ahead, consistently get advantages, and then just close out with confidence.
So Yankas, he told me before the show started in the makeup room, he told me to make sure I told everyone that he would carry today or die trying. Did he carry in that game?
He had some amazing team fights, is what I will say. But I would not call him definitively the carry. Honestly, the game was a little messy. If I had to say anyone was the carry, Ryu in those team fights kept coming in huge. Definitely a terrifying threat on that Vladimir. And of course, Vladimir, just a very powerful champion overall.
Yeah, fantastic stuff for H2K. We'll see what Vitality can put up against them. That game is going into picks and bans in a second over on EULCS2 in the studio if you want to check that out. Over here, though, we are going to take a quick break. And remember, after the last Nexus has fallen tonight, we'll be loading into the post-game lobby, and we want to hear from you to know what you think about patch 6.14 and how it will influence the LCS. Tweet at LL Esports and use that hashtag EULCS. Now we're going to find our friends after getting lost in the heat of battle. Stick around, we'll reunite after the break for Game 2, followed by your first look at the most unlikely couple to take to the Rift.
True. More people search that
today was your last day. Tomorrow was too late.
Oh, Mickey.
Did you say again?
No, Mickey.
Okay.
I need to mute a teammate.
Two-shot barrage tags, Karbi. There goes a rampaging Hecarim. Spirit helps kickers for first blood. Spur in yellow on the back foot, and a devastating charge against the wall. It won't kill though. Senka stays alive. Wonder goes forward. Riposte into lunge. Fnatic are white.
I'm moving.
Nar could be there. I'm moving as well.
Do we win this?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Not CP.
I'm ulting.
I'm coming
as well. Kill Trundle. Now after? No. He will die. Okay, nice.
Splyce bounce back and take down Fnatic.